Welcome, another edition of the Equine Edge Stakes preview. I'm filling in. I'm your host, Justin, for Scotty McKeever. He's having family time. But the great news about this is that we're going to have Oldie on, and Oldie is all about Oaklawn. So we are going to cover just two tracks this weekend, Oldie, but they're big racing.
Yeah.
Pegasus at Gulfstream Southwest in Oaklawn's right. Oldie, this is Oaklawn's probably biggest day of the meet so far. I know it might even be the biggest day of the meet. I'm not sure of that, but I'm assuming it's always one of them.
Yeah, I mean it's really the second Derby prep weekend, but obviously the Arkansas Derby weekend's big, and so is and so is the Rebel weekend. The Rebel one I think is actually the biggest
For the meet.
card wise for the meet, but yeah, you can just call it Oldie Lawn. Sorry, I was saving that one up all day.
No, I love it. And Mr. Racing Downwind, Dave Duncan, good to see you. Bluegrass Dan, everybody else, thanks for being here. We got it's a good. I think we have about 15 races we're going to cover. Oldie, it's getting back to Oaklawn though. It's funny. You have Oldie Lawn. You've been predominantly covering there, and I've been covering Fairgrounds, and they're totally different. Oaklawn probably one of the toughest tracks, if not the toughest track, to be honest, in all of racing. And then I go to Fairgrounds, and I like a lot of times it can be fairly chalky. There's a lot of chalk, but they're off the turf all the time. You don't really know what's going to be happening, so it's like this whole other dynamic. But Oaklawn is one of the toughest tracks in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at part of the note taking there is trying to help people identify where the bad favorites are.
Yeah.
That even if I fail at identifying which of the long shots are going to win, if I can help you identify one of the bad favorites,
Yeah.
That's half the work because you're not including that horse as well, hopefully.
Yeah. Or narrowing, right? We talk a lot about the equine edge, at least for me. I try to narrow and, I want to hit, 3 or 4 analysis. It's a little bit easier for me because you always have bigger fields. Sometimes I got like 6 horse fields at Fairgrounds and you're like 12 horse fields every race at Oaklawn. But, yeah, Chris, it can be but you still got to find the right prices at Fairgrounds. You can do it. It's just it's a lot of, Oaklawn's tough because you got to handicap all these big fields and it's just very difficult racing. The Pegasus card is great. I thought, Oldie, we're going to jump in a minute. That I thought had some difficult, very competitive races. But Oaklawn, like every card is just massive fields. And part of it's right because the purses are so huge.
Right. Absolutely. The purses are huge. I mean, a small field for Oaklawn is a big field for Fairgrounds a lot of times. Like there was a race that scratched down to 6 horses today. But since I have everybody too here, there was a horse today that was an AE. I mentioned it to you this morning as well that I just want everybody to keep an eye on. It's the 13 for Brad
share
Cox.
your screen.
Yeah, I'll pull it up here. The 13 for it did not pull up. Hold on. The 13 for Brad Cox Giant Moon. I actually put the link in there for the Oaklawn workouts. I don't know why it came through that week, but I put it in through the Oaklawn site there. But this horse had a very, very impressive workout. Was much the best by, we'll call it 6 to 8 lengths, and was never asked. It just turned from home. The jockey shake the reins once and was completely gone and broke solidly too. This might be one to keep an eye on. It was 4-1 on the morning line here. I don't know what you're going to get in another instance, but just possibly another big Brad Cox horse, or one that might be a little lesser thought of to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Scratched out, couldn't get in on the AE list. That's and that's the Arkansas bred, Oli. That's a state bred there. Look at that purse, 110,000, which is amazing. All right, let's jump in. We got Gulfstream, we got Oaklawn Saturday. Pegasus at Gulfstream. Race number 5. starting off with a 5 furlong turf sprint oldie in the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint Stakes. Big field. One of your favorite horses is the
Yes.
Scotty top pick, but talk to me here of where you landed and what your thoughts were.
Well, landed, and those of you who know me probably won't be surprised here. I landed on No Balls, who um, 6-year-old Gelding won last time out on the synthetic, was supposed to, was over, I believe, in Hong Kong, and didn't end up racing because spiked a fever and had to come back. But then was scratched out of fairgrounds when that race came off the turf.
Mm-hmm.
Or, this is Larry Ravelli. It's well known and I believe good friend of David Racing Downwind. E.T. Baird is aboard as well. No, I'm serious. And Wesley Ward's former roommate when he first came to the country, Dave can tell you that story as well. Um, and ET specializes in getting horses out of gates and getting them out quickly. I expect No Balls to break pretty well, but the horse has shown against, Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint level competition at this distance that the horse can blow the break and still win a race that has a lot of pace in it. And I think this race has a lot of pace in it. I don't think they're going to be gunning for the lead here. I think they're going to sit a little bit. And, in my mind, the way I envision the race, No Balls could get the perfect trip here. From
Yeah.
a maybe the trip even that from an outside post, but not the speed of the speed. Hopefully, won't get caught 5 or 6 wide, and is just going to sit a little bit of a stalking trip right behind that speed when they all go at each other and stop.
So let's watch the race sim for a second, if you want to flip back there. And, you know, if you look at the pace up front, right, it's a big field, maybe there's some horses that have no speed. So they're at the first call, right? You have the 2-8, let's say the 9 sits back, like you're saying, in the 5, and the 12 and the 2 are out there. Coppola, and then you have the 2, Yes, I Am Free inside, right? And then you have Nobles just sitting the trip, like you said, and it's becomes between the 9 and 12. The 11's kind of closing. And so when I looked at this, I said, okay, I think the 9 is a big player. I don't disagree with you. That's not who I put on top. I put Coppola on top the 12, and you and I were texting before. I Whether this horse needs the lead or not, so if you want to jump in and look at Coppola, I mean, this is the one that I thought fit the best for Snowballs oldie because has speed, 111 posts last out at Gulfstream, going 5 for Romans. That was a very similar level. So I think Nobles is definitely the class, right? Like you cannot,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, argue with that, right? So, but you look here, it hasn't won a graded stakes, but it's in stakes company. This totally fits for Coppola, and Tyler Ride here for Romans, one that's out. I'd assume is one of Dale's nicer horses. I mean, he's really, really nice, 6-year-old, but he doesn't win a lot of races, but I think fits here. But I don't, that's where I land on top. I thought it was between the 12 and 9 oldies, so I can't argue with you on Nobles. I think this isn't, I thought, just didn't think it was a great group for me. So it really was the class with Nobles or the 12 up front. And, Noble's going to have to figure out that trip, like you said. And so
Yeah.
that was my only concern. Comes out of that race versus Patches. I think run a great race, but it was 9 or 12 for me. I landed on the 12 on
Yeah, my thought, and I feel like you and I have been having the Coppola argument for a year, maybe longer at this point. I typically, I'm going to be on No Balls, and I knew you were going to be on Coppola.
Yeah.
Uh, but what I see, eh, at least until last race with Coppola, is a horse that wants to be pressing, pressing or on the lead. And
And I
in
think
this
that's what we see.
Yeah, in this race, what I see though is 4 or 5 horses that all want that position, and with Coppola being the widest, My concern is more getting caught, 4 or 5 wide in the turn, because it is a short run up to that turn at Gulfstream. That would be my only comment on
Yeah.
Coppola, other than, I think Coppola definitely could win. Maybe I prefer 5.5, but and I'll say that about some other horses here as well. But I think it's a pretty, if those two horses don't win, this thing's wide open.
And
They're
I,
providing, let's say, a large portion of the SOR that puts this as a 7.
yeah. Yeah, and Bluegrass Dan's right. The rail, I forgot to mention that, Dan. So I appreciate you bringing it up. But is that 66 feet? So only up under info, you can see that on Equine
Yeah.
Edge for just users. If you haven't used it, you can always click on the little, yeah, right where Oldie's at, and it'll show 66 feet. So that's that's where, and I don't think that changes a lot, other than it is really going to favor probably speed up front. 70, the 1 and 4, I think, are like, I don't think this thing falls apart, is my point. I don't think it can become way off the speed in the sprint. So, I didn't really, I couldn't really make a case for a long shot here, to be honest. But I don't know if you want to talk about anybody else here. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I mean, I do think there is a possibility this melts, and I think Reef Runner has a shot here. In that case, definitely always runs an honest race. Has won at 5 furlongs, has a win against similar against 68 SOR, which is being blocked on the bottom of my screen, but you guys can see it. There we go. Um, and the race sim also has this horse running really well, 12-1. And, so I thought that horse at least had a look, if not to win, definitely underneath, as a horse that's going to be finishing strong and could take advantage of the rail position, which typically affects more inside closers than outside on this turf course. I do want to point out, though, that they must be splitting the turf course when they have the
Yeah,
rail out that far
no, they are.
on this day.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
Go ahead.
yeah, so that's the other thing, but that they're still going to have 12 starters in this race. So, there still will be more room than you think. I have a feeling at 66 feet.
Yeah, but dude, that's gonna be. I don't see it, but navigating off the speed and that post and a rail out like that, I could be proven wrong, but I don't see it. But if I was gonna give a long shot, the Scotty long shot, no Hudson, or the 7. The 7 only at least has class from a strength of race perspective. Panther Island is, you're gonna get probably a big price, but again, I still think it's between the 9 and 12. But yeah,
And the other long shot I want to, not long shot actually by price, that I want to highlight, but long shot by morning line, is the 3 Mucho del Oro. Has wins going down the hill, wins at 6. I kind of like the shorten up from 6.5 going down the hill to 5 here. I think that may play well, but this horse needs to be close as well, even though it does have the one win in 2022 from further back. So that was kind of, those were my 3 there.
all right. So I am 12, 9, 7, 6. You are 9, 3, 11, or 9,
Yeah,
11, 3, and some. Okay. All right.
yeah, some
Let's
order.
go to race 7. We'll skip over the handicap. It's such a great card they have.
Yeah,
So the grade 3, it's a La Previante, I think is probably how you pronounce it.
sure.
I thought this was a good one too, Oldie, on the turf, going
Yeah,
12 furlongs this time. I thought there was a few ways you could go here, so I'm curious to hear where you landed.
yeah. I mean, I thought that I did not think this was the greatest field for grade 3 here. We're going long. I went with the second win percentage, but not in the top picks. Beautiful Love for Charlie and his Appleby here with William Buick aboard. Um, we always talk about with Buick and Appleby that if Appleby puts Buick up, that he thinks that's a live horse. Uh, so I kind of took it that way. This horse ran really well in the Filly and Mare, Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare turf at 11 furlongs at Del Mar. I think that there's just no horse in this field that really I don't trust Chop Chop. There's a bunch of horses I don't trust here. Um, this is the horse I trust the most. I guess would be the way I'd put it, but that's not a ringing endorsement either.
Yeah, I put Beautiful Love second, so I can't argue much, Oldie. And I think it's gonna be the favorite, and I think is a big player. But I ended up on La Mehana. The four horse comes
Mhm.
from, France, been in the US for 6 starts for Christopher Kamat and Dylan Davis ride, right? And he's down at Gulfstream now. Moved out of New York, riding with these, boys and girls down here, and I think we'll have a good meet. Can you still hear me, Oli?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Um, and won a 66 last out, which is much easier than these, but just third off the layoff, first time at Gulfstream. And but you go back and won that, what was it, Waya? Up at Aqueduct going 11, and actually faced Beautiful Love in that race, and beat Beautiful Love in that race. So, when I looked at that, I was like, there's no way I can take Beautiful Love at a short price like that. And
Mm,
I think really we'll get a good trip here, from a pace perspective. They're both going to be coming off the pace, with William and Dylan here. But, you look, I mean, it has 7 wins, hit the board at 11 of 18, first time 12, and it should be no issue, in my opinion, only for this horse to even get the
yeah,
12 furlongs, right? So I but I put Beautiful Love second, and we'll probably talk about a couple others. But yeah, I thought could improve here. Going to be Dylan's first win, maybe on a Pegasus race. I don't know that for sure, but I don't know how often he's rode down here. So I know I saw a graphic that the big jockeys dominate a day like this. I think I saw that
yeah.
Zayas was like 0 for 35 on Pegasus races, and you know and Irad was just hitting it like a crazy clip, right? So, but yeah, I think this horse has a big shot.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It did at Aqueduct beat Beautiful Love, so and it is the second pick here. Um, I'm not sure what happened in the middle race there. There's really not much in the notes. I might have to go back and watch the
Well,
video
I
on that.
I agree. It'd be a good race to watch. It might, again, it might sway my opinion even further one way or another. But I didn't get a
Yeah,
chance to. But I agree. I saw that, and it's a good point to bring up. I mean, looks like just didn't break, but it just says save ground, no avail. I'm like, that doesn't help me.
right.
Wait, what?
And really, it didn't break that much slower than it did the previous race. That's the thing. It just there were more
Yeah,
horses in the race.
but
Would
and
be the
well, it's funny you mentioned that because I actually did take a note from that perspective because Dylan now rides here and Dylan rode last out and either broke a little bit
oh,
better or, something happened in that recent race. Those couple of races, I agree with you that Kendrick rode was just not great. But
yeah,
now you get back to Dylan Davis, which can be a pure upgrade, right? And if you look back at those races at Gulfstream, right? The grade 3 Orchard ran at a 74 only and almost got up, right? And that was tougher than this.
yeah,
So I think she still has a lot left.
yeah. I don't think it's an issue of a lot left either. I just wonder if in the bigger fields that maybe the lack of tactical speed might be the overall reason you can break 8 lengths behind
Yeah.
in a 6 horse field, but it's hard to do it in an 11 horse field.
Yeah, no, that's good perspective.
But
Anybody else? I know Chop Chop win the race sim. So what was your
yeah,
thoughts here on Chop Chop?
I just don't trust Chop Chop. um, I know won that grade 3 at Keeneland at 12. The horse has 2 wins at 12. Does have some
Hmm.
tactical speed. Yeah, but you look and Chop Chop ran well in a grade 3 and then didn't do much and idled around for the next 4 races and then won another race. And also there is the part where it's moving from Brad Cox to Pletcher here,
Yeah,
which I
I
found
saw
it.
that. I saw that because I thought Chop Chop had a shot here. Well, I put Chop Chop I think third, but I know. I mean, I would assume you think this horse has a shot. You just
Well,
because I mean the horse fits.
yeah, but Pletcher, even though he does really well on these days, is only 5% um, with first time
Yeah,
with
yeah,
horse
that's
and in these moves, which uh, actually shocked me when I saw it for Pletcher. I would have thought he would have been better than that with that kind of number. It is Pletcher and Irad. Irad, as you mentioned, wins a lot of races on these days. But I just thought that, you know, Beautiful Love might be a little better. La Mahina could be a little better. And then also, I had a long shot here. In the other Pletcher, the two, What Love Looks Like. And, this horse just hasn't been able to get home recently. But for a long shot at 12-1 in this field, that's been a Pletcher horse. Um, to me, it wasn't that hard to envision that the other Pletcher, so to speak, in this case, is the one that gets you here.
yeah. My the only other I actually from a long shot, the horse always gets second is the problem.
Yeah,
I mean, and not the two. Well, the two is not who I was talking about. Oldie. I wasn't in love with the two, but the 10 horse forever after all constantly loves to get second place. And Gaff rides again, and he hasn't rode much. I mean, if somebody gonna upset it, you look at forever after all, Oldie. I mean, maybe, but it's a rough, it's rough.
yeah,
I like the four a lot, to be honest, in this race. Like if I was playing Pegasus, I 100% would be playing the four horse in a bet. I don't know if I would be doubling or if I'd be playing exacta, but I like but go ahead.
yeah. I want to make one other point on the two here, and that's that it's supposed to rain, um, that there are or be still potentially be a little wet, and if the turf is, the two has done its best running, and it's by English Channel, so I'm not surprised there on softer, a little bit softer, a little bit wet turf. Um, so that was another thing I was looking at, as well as obviously the two overseas horses in Beautiful Love and La Mahina, who have proven wet turf form.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to talk on?
Not that I can think of now. Here.
Hey, Chris, is Oldie sound okay to you? You were cutting out for me, but it could be on my end.
Okay.
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah. Gary said Apple and Buick 41%
Yeah.
in stakes races. That's an amazing stat. And I think though in Oldie that just before we go to race 8, that gets to your point of when Buick riding for Charlie in the US or probably anywhere, but here in the US, like he's live,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Hey, I just got to come in here. What jockey is known as Chop Chop?
No idea what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about? He rode the second fastest Derby winner next to Secretariat. Really?
Nope.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Chop Chop. Chop Chop
Oh,
is named after a very famous jockey.
But I saw you put that in the chat. What's the answer?
George Chavez. He rode
Oh,
the Narcos to the Derby win.
I don't know either one of those names. That just
Yeah.
shows my youth in racing. I'm sorry.
2001.
Never heard of him.
2000, he
Not
was
even
like
once.
Bethesda winner, Memorial winner, which is like the George Wolf winner out at Santa Anita. Dude won just a ton of races. Great jockey, 4,526 career wins. Born on November 25th, 1961. Chop chop. So there you go. Just a little bit of history there. I'm dating myself. Pat V doing lines. Yeah. Nice, Bill. All right. Continue on, guys.
All right. We're going to race 8 at Gulfstream on Saturday, Pegasus Day. The Fred W. Hooper?
And Cooper.
Yes. Sorry, I was looking at Oaklawn and Gulfstream at the same time there. Well, I watched the race sim on this, so let's just start there because I think it's important in this race.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say this was, to me, a very weak grade 3.
I might agree.
I was not a fan.
I mean, it has the 5 on the front end, right, Oldie, and just kind of going.
Yeah, the 5's such a money burner, though.
Well, so I ended up in the same spot as you, I'm sure, because I kind of thought the same thing. And, so where did you end up landing here?
I ended up landing on the 3. I don't love it, but at least it's in good form. Won the Harlan Holiday at 8.5 here at Gulfstream. It is a low price. I just this race I just didn't love and thought it was really, a low level allowance race.
Well, the 6 did win the 5 won this race last year, right? So 1 of 72, raced against the 3 last out in the Harlan Holiday, right? So they faced each other, and the 3 kind of beat the 5 fairly easily. And when I looked at that, only I was like, well, what happened here? I mean, they were going 2 churns. Now they cut back to 8, which is a 1 churn mile at Gulfstream, right? So, I mean, maybe that's part of the problem, but the 5 also can't. I would say it's burned money, but it also at the same time, although it's been facing much tougher, which I think to your point is like, this is not a great grade 3.
Yeah, but even when it wasn't facing much tougher, you have to go back to 2023 when it was winning. I don't know. I mean, maybe a 1 turn mile is the answer, but the Gulfstream mile was on 3-2 of last year was not a great race either. And the horse just should be on the lead. And if you go back and look, almost always is the top pace number in these races and finds a way not to get the lead.
Well, it's only 26%. Like, oh, so Alfredo, I love that you're here. That's amazing. Good to see you. You think Tumbarumba is like a winner? The track will be faster this time in shortening in distance. So, I mean, it's coming from the class, Alfredo. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this horse just kind of doesn't get up or barely gets up, and good luck to you too.
Yeah.
And but I respect Alfredo's opinion, especially at Gulfstream. So, but so Oldie, talk to me about Rocket Can real quick.
I mean, Rocket Can's more of a closer, or let's say a mid-range stalker. And had the pace in the Harlan Holiday to run at from Tumbarumba and the other horse there that Tumbarumba was pressing. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar instance where the 9 horse here, who was one of the other horses that was part of that pace duel with Tumbarumba, if they reignite their rivalry there and set up Rocket Can again here. There's other horses, new shooters, so to speak, in implementation I don't like because the GSR goes way down. That Bourbon Resolve kind of is a lesser version of Rocket Can. So, I mean, the only other thing I liked here was the 7 Outstanding, who was a last stop maiden winner for Pletcher by almost 10 lengths on the lead. And I just think maybe this horse is improving. It's by Curlin, so should have some flexibility and distance. I'm thinking maybe this horse can rate a little more. I don't think it'll be up by 6.5 when it hits the stretch. But for me, that this was kind of a mid-priced option, and it is Rapoli and Stone Street here, or St. Alice and bred by Stone Street. My apologies.
I kind of, when I looked at this race, I am now, as you say, I'm not sure it's a grade 3. I get that based on how I kind of handicapped it. I'm riding with Tumbarumba mainly because Oldie on the race sim wins easy. I mean, I think to your point, I don't think this is a great group for a grade 3. I think this horse kind of towers a bit over the field. I mean, it cuts back. I think that probably helps. This horse has won a lot of money at 8 furlongs. And so those were 78s and 74s. So I think this is just Tumbarumba, just a much easier group. And I think he'll win here, would be my perspective. So, hit the board in, 14 of 18, really nice horse. I mean, to be honest. And won this race last year, again, winning 2 in a row. So that's my perspective. All right. Let's keep going. We're going to go to race number 9. Another 12 furlongs, Oldie.
Yep.
And the William L. McKnight Stakes. I remember this race when I was at Gulfstream. I played in Pegasus, like when Scotty won it, and I remember I had the exacta in this race a couple years ago. But the races to me started to get a lot more competitive, Oldie, and they had to be difficult here on a few of these. And I thought maybe had some questionable favorites, but I'd be curious on your thoughts here in race 9.
So in race 9 again, my top pick again is the Appleby with Buick aboard here. This horse just missed in the Sycamore at Keeneland. I just think again that this is another not great field. There's a lot of horses here, but I think there's a lot of potential speed here. I think they're going to go fast. I think this
but
one
look at the
is going to have
pace
to go.
Look at so.
I know, but
so
the
you're on
one's got to
Bodax.
go. I mean, you look at its best race; it's on the lead.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. Let's watch the race sim real quick.
The 4 and the 3, I think, are relatively cheap.
So the one likely going to go and get the lead.
Hold on, we skipped races there. There we go.
Yeah, I don't think the one gets the lead because the Sky Longshot 3 with Jose from Maker off the claim going to get the lead. Jose in town, and the one. I'm not sure that horse with Frankie going to just go to the lead.
So I think he's on 2 1s in a row here. So let me get us back to second call here. So you got the 4 and the 3 on the lead. I mean, if the 3 gets an easy lead, that's a different story. I think the 4 is cheap.
I do agree. I thought the 3 had a big shot, which is had a big shot on the front end if that happened. And there's Bold Act ends up winning the race in, which is where you landed. I ended up only landing on, I think, Cash Equity, right? Yes. So Cash Equity, these two are absolutely up to no good in this race and are about to, you'll get a price on Irad, I'm telling you. So, I mean, never gone 12 furlongs once. I mean, did go one time. And Sappy has this horse for so much time, 8 races. Actually, more than that, 9 or 10 races. I'm not sure who was the trainer back there a while ago. But in a race like this, if so, I think the 3, I want to put the 3 on top. And Jose might get loose. I love the 3 there. Jose might get loose, Oldie. If they duel up front and the 4 can somehow duel with the 3, and to your point of the 1, we're not sure what's going to happen there. But I think Cash Equity, you will absolutely could get the distance here. And the horse never, the GSR actually goes up a little bit, Oldie. And this horse has been wanting longer than 8, 9 furlongs. And these two were like, and you got Jose on the speed in front. You got Irad coming from behind. He's 100% going to probably get a great trip on this horse. I don't worry too much about the post with Irad and finding a spot when you might have some people that send up front, and as long as he can get out of the gate and find a good spot. So, I thought that Cash Equity was such a sneaky play with Irad. When I saw Irad was riding for Sappy, only I was like, these two are up to something and dropping an SOR. It's dropping, Oldie, coming out of those races at Churchill and Keenelands and Kentucky Downs. Those were much tougher.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is the Kentucky Downs form often doesn't translate elsewhere. But
but throw those races, though, is what I would say. Fine. But look at the form. And again, I'm talking about stretching out here. This horse has only gone 12 furlongs one time, right? And it started 34, which I normally wouldn't. But I think in this race, it could really play to the strength of Irad and coming off and this horse actually getting the distance, So that's where I end up landing. It's I think Bold Act definitely. Only that was my 3rd pick. I actually put the 3 Captain Peak on top, just like we talked about. I think Jose might get loose here. To your point, I don't like the 4 at all. And I think Jose could be really dangerous here. The Scotty long shot, you're going to get a massive price. But it's a tough race. Who else? I'm 12, 3, 11. Who else you're 11 and who else?
So the 10 was actually my 2nd pick here. Multiple wins at 12 furlongs. Nearly won last time out at 16. And it's Correas with Gaff aboard. I think Gaff will get a great trip. This horse has some tactical speed. So doesn't have to be that far back. And, is really, other than Bold Act, the other horse that's proven at this kind of distance.
Yeah.
Not proven again, hasn't gotten home against graded stakes company yet. But I think this could be the field at a price. And again, it's another English Channel horse, so you might upgrade a little bit if the track's a little wet. Like, I don't expect yielding turf, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's good, rated as good.
So and I kind of handicapped it. I looked at the SORs, and one of the things, if you get back to Race View, is, and I only share, we've been talking about this in the chat. Feel free to chime in for EU users, but like the use of Race View. But only one way I like to, so if you go to Ticket Generator and you go to the GSR tab, right, and especially I want to say who is run at 12 and run well. You can sort by SOR and GSR, right? So you look at that and you have like Rock Emperor and Anglophile up there at these kind of middle win percents. You also have Capkin Peak, and then you have the 5 and 9 also from GSR oldie, but nobody, the 9 once that 8 furlong. So my only kind of point here, the other horse that I was looking at was the 8, but I'd be curious on the 5, 9, 8, any like long shot look here for you. I wanted to, in a way, try to like one of these horses, and maybe it's in a try somehow.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Mainly only because they have the high GSR, they have the high SOR, and they mainly the 8 has run well at the distance. I
So
mean, any of these
I'll
horses
say about
improve.
Rock Emperor that Rock Emperor is not going to win this race,
Yeah.
but
Okay. I
and
agree.
is not
I
going to
agree.
improve. He's just Rock Empire kind of runs the same race
Mm-hmm.
every time. If there's enough pace here, the horse can finish in the money.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was in the Brown Barn that this horse was at one time very well considered and very well bet. You go back, I believe this horse finished second. Oh, I can't even find it, but like in the Bowling Green, um, you know, didn't run well in the Breeders' Cup Turf at Del Mar in 21. But that I don't like it on top. I don't like
I
Anglophile at
think
all.
it's the but to your point, and that's mainly why, if you're playing in the tournament or something, the 9 might be a trifecta play underneath. I thought the 8 maybe could be too, but not on top. Or the I like, I like the 12. I do. I like the 3, but at prices underneath, maybe in the super or the try. But that's all I was asking. We can definitely move on. I thought that it's such a great 12 furlong turf race. I thought this was a great one. All right, let's go to race 10. What's TAA? Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. I'm assuming that's what I thought. So Pegasus, the World Cup filly and Mare turf, oldie. So you cut the 9 and 12. I agree with you there.
I actually cut the 9 and 12 because they're scratched.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I already cut them, I think. Even you told me that earlier. Maybe I did cut them there. I think I did look at the AE. I didn't think they, either. Yeah, I did. I didn't like either one of those. But where oh man, this race had fluffy socks in it. But where did you where I think we've covered that horse
Don't
more
get
on
caught in the fluffy socks trap.
No, trust me. No, I'm not. Don't worry. But where'd you land here? But my point was, when I looked at this, there's the speed on the front end, Odie, and then you have some of these other players. So I'm curious where you landed here.
So I landed on Be Your Best, who I think is going to get a very similar trip to last time out here. And, since coming to the Saffy Barn is in excellent form. This horse can rate a little bit. It can go long. It can go short. Getting it out of the DePaz Barn was a huge uplift for this horse in my mind. Saffy and Zayas win a lot together. Zayas stays aboard here. It's the long shot. It's top win percentage. It's 2 of 3 at the distance. I just think this horse gets a perfect trip here.
Yeah, I had Be Your Best underneath. It's definitely a good long shot play. Let's watch the race then, Moldy. I always like to start there. You have a pace square on the 1. Rakiaya. Man, we got some tough ones tonight.
Yeah.
Source comes from a Burrows, oldie. Not Joe Burrow, but OJ Burrows. I don't know. But ultimately in the Fletcher barn, and Frankie ride on the front end here at Gulfstream, oldie. I think you talked about earlier. I think the turf course is going to be split, so this looks to be on the inner turf. But speed up front, and then you have the 10 Sacred Wish coming right there. I ended up landing on one of those horses. Well, I put the 1 on top. It's the top pick. I thought mean, you look, I mean, won a 74 last out, won easy on the lead, to be honest. I didn't watch that race before. I probably saw it at Del Mar, but I haven't had a chance to watch it recently. But I thought it was impressive from the 9 hole at Del Mar. Just, it looked to win easy. And so, comes over to the Fletcher barn. Frankie's here to ride. I mean, I didn't like him on most of the horses I saw, Oldie. So when I saw this one, I thought it could be really tough and he could be dangerous up front.
Yeah, so I think this horse is a little dangerous up front, but I'll make the point that I made before too, that Pletcher first time training a horse is only 5%. And that's one of the things that actually made me keep this out of my picks altogether. I just think that there's enough other speed here to not let this horse get away.
But who's gonna go?
Well, I think Pounce has speed. I think Be Your Best prefers to press, so I think Be Your Best sits breaking right by the one horse too, sits right off, and presses that horse and carries on the way it did in its previous race in the Swanee River. And if you watch that race, you'll see it basically did exactly what I'm expecting here. Be Your Best, the GSR goes up. Rakia, the GSR goes down as well for the extra half furlong here.
Here's my only comment. There's the stat on Fletcher, but I mentioned to you, and I'm almost positive I saw this on Twitter, or maybe it was at Gulfstream, but Zaya's like 0 for 32 in Pegasus races, Oldie. So just tread cautiously. I mean, from a stats perspective is my only comment. But so my point being, I'm relying on Frankie to get loose, and this horse just has great speed. It's a nice horse for Todd Fletcher. So in the chat, Gary was asking about the 11, Oldie, so we definitely need to talk about we'll talk about the 11.
Let me just quickly give you my thoughts on the 11. First of all, I know there are a lot of people, including people that we have done shows with, that are on this horse. For me, this horse has the wrong running style to win at Gulfstream in this race. It just doesn't have a lot of pace. And if you go back and look at if you can get a hold of some of these South African races, this is a single move late closer. And, it always gets close, and you see that in the first time in the U.S., but doesn't win very often, would be my advice. So I tread cautiously on this horse.
The one thing, Oli, I feel like for Equinedge, and I think you gotta be careful with these international horses and the data, right? I actually like to kind of dig into them more to try to understand it. You see Fletcher Irad, and I'm going the other Fletcher, but I think this might be the other Fletcher versus the one. But when I look here, Oldie, I look and I say, okay, those SORs, there's no win percentage. This horse was at 1% last out and was 8-1, and to your point, didn't get there, right? And then I look at the SORs at least to kind of understand that and say, okay, they're predominantly all in the 60s and everything. And I think to your point, is this race going to set up for this horse? I didn't think it would win. I really didn't. That would be my perspective. I think you and I view it very similar. I don't see it on the win-in, Gary. But that's just the way I thought, the way it worked. And partially, I actually think, just to talk, one of the other horses that I had underneath was Sacred Wish, the 10, because when you look at Sacred Wish, I mean, won the Matriarch over at Del Mar, won not easily. I mean, got up, but didn't get up late. I mean, ended up, that was at 8 furlongs, now stretches out here to 8.5. I don't think it'll necessarily be a problem. It has back class. I mean, hasn't been getting up, but this horse fits to me. And that's why, like, looking at the 11, I mean, it's tough with international. I try to rely on something there, and it's 1%. There's not a lot of past strength of race there. Even if the data can be a little questionable, I try to just piece it together. But this horse is coming from tough races only at Monmouth, Del Mar, one last out, third off the layoff. Johnny V ride for Weaver. I thought this horse had a big shot. I almost put the 10 on top, to be honest.
Well, for me, another horse I thought had a shot here was the 6 Dona Claudia. For first time in the U.S. for Correas, is shortening up here as well. The GSR doesn't like it, but that's it could be a data issue with the Chilean breds there. But this horse likes to win. It does have a win at a mile, has the wins at a little longer, and Correas does really well with these first-time U.S. horses, and this is a Resolute Racing horse as well, and he picks up Jose here.
See, I could get down more with that versus like Bless the Stars in a way, Oldie. Because I can see that as a 1%er. The horse was winning easy as well in low 60s. If I say I'm going to compare the 11 with the 6 using Equine Edge, I'm going to compare those. The 11 did win, a 68, but I think to your point, this horse I think really does have not knowing coming from Chile, but that the 11 has that gotta have it closed, not gonna have need this pace up front to be flying late. I just not sure as the kick. Where you look at the 6, I mean, this horse won 2 Group 1s, Oldie, down in Chile here. Sorry, the 11 was from South Africa. The 6 coming from Chile, I mean, ran really well in many of those races. And to your point, you just have somebody like Correas here with the, versus Todd might be better. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, Gary, I'm aware that Howard liked that horse. That was one of the people I was referencing who was on this horse. Big shocker that Howard and I disagree on a horse. That happens all the time. The other thing I'll say about it is Howard expects the horse to have a different run style, and the horse ran in the U.S. the first time the way the horse runs in all those South African races. So I would be shocked to see the horse show more speed.
I love this sequence, just kind of looking at the sequence here. So I'm not gonna play in Pegasus, but it's this is a good sequence. All right, Oldie. Anybody else?
Yeah, my other long shot was the 2 pounce with Cassie and Dylan Davis, who I think could pounce here. Just missed at 8.5 in the Miss Revere last time out, which was a grade 2 at Churchill. Comes off here, probably should be better than 15-1. Working well, working on the turf. I have a note on the horse, of how good of a workhorse this horse is as well. So, that at 15-1, this was a horse with the kind of pace it can generate and be up near the lead that I thought fit both this race and the Gulfstream turf course.
All right, so you are 3-6-2. I am 1-10-3. All right, let's go to race 11 only. Now we're getting to the inside information on the dirt. They're going 7. Man, I was a little bit worried about some of these outside posts only on these horses. It was my concern in this race. But let's watch the race then, because so the 9 and 7 are our 2 favorites, right?
Right.
They both have speed, though. They both have class.
Yeah, and I think I'd be more concerned, and we'll talk about that in the Pegasus too, if they had no speed at those outside posts.
Well, yeah. No, I agree. Yes. Yeah. What's up, Rodney? Good to see you, man. Yes, you're 52 minutes late. He's been you're cashing in at Turfway. I love to hear that, Oldie. That's amazing. Anybody cashing at Turfway is a good thing. Because if you're cashing, you're probably cashing pretty well. All right, so the 9 win the race, Oldie. The top pick the 7 not in the picks, but where'd you land here?
So I landed on the 9. I'm seem like some sort of genius
Grudgingly?
here. No, I was hoping to find a price, but um, this horse nearly won a grade 1 at Saratoga. Maybe if it wasn't in the slot, maybe that horse would have won that race. Um, just has been much the best in a lot of these races.
Yeah.
There's a one win by less than a length, but all these other wins are, 3.5, 5, more than 5. Um, got a little freshening, is working well, gets some class relief from that grade 1, similar to this grade 2 here. I just think from the horse is going to be able to sit in a stalking or near pressing position and get a great trip here.
Yeah.
Is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Oldie, I'd be curious if you Bill's question real quick, just because I want to make sure we talk about it. But he was asking about the different GSR numbers. Hey, Anthony.
So
interesting.
The current version of GSR will adjust based on the horse's results. So if the horse wins a race or loses a race,
or the horses, Bill, I think in all the enemies, so the horses that are in like the family tree, right?
Yes,
in the horses will be actively running other progeny off of those what do they call like the chart? But other horses that are coming off the pedigree essentially from the GSR, because there's active horses running off the GSR. So what's happening is you're seeing, especially if there's not been a lot of runners, then the GSR is actively updating based on current horses is likely what you're seeing. And I think Scotty's talked about some of the modifications on the GSR, and that'll be coming in future. We'll let him talk about it when he comes back. Maybe next week we can talk about it some more. But I think, Oldie, don't you think that's what's probably happening?
Yeah, that's what I would expect is happening. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then Anthony was saying, remember, there's American horses have to go into 6-month quarantine. So that's just useful information from race 10. Anthony, so, appreciate you mentioning
Anthony,
that.
do you mean South African? Because if I go back here, the
one is from Chile. So, but I would assume
but that's only.
Or the 6, sorry.
The 6 is less than 3 months since its last race. So I'm assuming he means South Africa, not South America.
Yeah, it must. All right. So you have the 9. I don't actually really. I like those other 3 races. I don't really like this race, to be honest, from a betting standpoint. Only I landed up on the 7. Mystic Lake. I ride riding, a bit of a more inside post, which I appreciate. Safi, great. Obviously a Gulfstream. Second off the layoff. I'm assuming that's the Sugar Swirl. I can't remember, but one easy stocking the pace. I think he gets it was only a 5-horse field. This can be a little bit bigger of a group, but I think a little bit more competitive. Obviously shows up as a 84, but I thought wants 7, hopefully. I mean, I think you could question it. I mean, 7's a tricky distance, Oldie. So, but that's where I landed. But I put the 9 second. So, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy if you look at this. Since, its first race in 2024, it's been on an every other race pattern.
Yeah, no, that.
I mean, that's not.
Yeah, and been the favorite in many of those.
Yeah,
did lose once, but
yeah, and I'll say has ran well at Tampa at 7 furlongs against easier, and just keep in mind that 7 furlongs at Charlestown is 2 turns.
Yeah,
as
3
well.
for 3. Yeah, no, yeah, and 3 for 3 at the distance. But that's where, and then but I thought 7-9. But one horse that I still wanted to talk about too was Nick's Style. I'd be curious on your and maybe, I mean, this might be a horse I actually put on top because I really struggled. So maybe it's a Florida bred though. So Florida bred, but this horse won 5 of 6. I mean, ran second there at the Big A, and that was in the slop. So if you forgive that effort, I mean, how's this horse? I mean, I thought this when I saw him, like, how's this horse kind of not the favorite? But I guess it's just because it hasn't quite proven itself yet, right? Is it why? But I thought this horse had a huge look. I mean, again, I thought I was really struggling between the 7 and 2.
So I was 9-7-2 here. The 2 was my third horse. But this horse is 5 of 6 in the money all 6 times. I think the reason it's not the favorite is, it hasn't won a graded stakes where the 9 and 7 have. But
Yeah.
this horse, I think, for a little bit of a price horse here, has a very good shot of winning. And we might be seeing some horses that we will see in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint next year as well, because some of these are pretty classy horses as well. And with as lightly raced as this mare is, that this could be a horse we see improve if it can stay on the track.
I think I might put this horse on top. I really struggled with there's the race sim, right?
I think we did watch it already, now that I think about it. But
no, we did. But I mean, that horse is going to be up there with the 7, and then the 9 going to kind of try to stop. But I think the 2 could take them. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The 2 takes them to the stretch, Oldie. So I always like to watch that.
And I think that the pace number might be a little off too. I don't think the 2 necessarily needs the lead. I think the 7 might do its best running on or just right off. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the 7 or maybe the 4. One of the 2 Saffies is going, the other one's going to sit, or one of them's going to scratch.
Yeah.
But it looks a little more to me like the 4 can rate a little more than the 7. So I have a feeling Saffie will instruct Edwin to sit back a little bit here.
Yeah, and Bill, getting back to Bill's comment or question too, it's a justify. So that actually is 100% what's happening. Yeah. That and the new GSR algorithm is going to smooth that out. It won't be as volatile with the light number of runners. So, all right, Oldie, anybody else you want to talk about? I think I'm gonna go with the 2 on top. I think I'm gonna go 2-7. I'm gonna go 2-7-9.
All right. I mean, I guess you got to talk about what
9-7-2, right? 9-7-2.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 4, the long shot, has a shot. And I think the 3 is closing good in the race sim, and maybe one to use underneath as well. I don't think the 3 can win. It doesn't win very often, but it does finish in the money a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I mean, as a last horse, I wanted to really like this horse, Oldie. I really did, because it was the second pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Jose rides. It's burned money, though. I mean, not winning those races as the favorite, Oldie, I mean, it is cutting back, but it probably's run a lot of its best races at 7. But I don't know. I just, to your point, I think maybe underneath.
All right, race 12.
All right, the Pegasus World Cup turf, big field, big prices. In my opinion, well, if you watch the race sim, Oldie, if you want to do that real quick, we'll see what the race sim says of how wide open it might be.
Yeah, and no speed in this race either. So somebody could steal this. I'd have to check the AEs. There might be some speed on the AEs. The 1, Siege of Boston, scratched out already. We know that.
There's no speed, Oldie, and I 100% agree with you. It's very crazy, and I thought the 4 would be really dangerous. That is, I think Dylan might be riding.
So for me,
he is.
I went to the former favorite in the Breeders' Cup turf, just because there was no other horse with that level class in Nation's Pride. Maybe I'm thinking the wrong horse here. No, maybe
No,
I'm thinking the
that's
wrong Appleby. Wasn't in the Breeders' Cup, but won the Arlington Million last year. I don't know why I was thinking that. Won at Woodbine, and did show speed at Woodbine at 10 furlongs. So I would not be surprised if Nation's Pride ends up very close to the lead, if not on the lead here. And go ahead.
no, yeah.
There we
I
go.
thought,
Now I got the
yeah, no, keep going, Oldie, keep going.
now I got the rest of the races to show up here. It wasn't showing up before. So this horse in 2022 at Keeneland was the post-time favorite in the Breeders' Cup turf that was won by Rebels Romance, who won this year's as well. So, I mean, this is, I just think that this horse is classier and has faced some of the best horses in the world over the last 2 or 3 years, and just has a class advantage over this group where you have a lot of horses that haven't been in with some of the best horses in the world and haven't run well against them. So to me, Nation's Pride might be the best turf bet of the day.
Nation's Pride, I think has a big shot, Oldie, for Charlie and William. But man, this race though, look at the racing. This wild. Like,
It is wild, yeah.
And it's kind of like back and forth. And so, we'll talk about Win for the Money. Spirit of St. Louis is by far going to be a price, and it's Chad, it's Gaff. I'm going for a bomber here. I mean, one last out in the 76 at the Big A. First off, the layoff, I don't really worry about. I mean, if this race is really that wide open, Oldie, if it really from the race sim is that wide open, and it looks, in my opinion, to be pretty wide open, I mean, this horse has hit the board in 12 of 13.
Yeah.
And, I mean, going 9 furlongs. And Chris, I think I'm not sure in this race if I think they're probably on the inner turf. But so Ole, I just thought it's a great trip. I mean, this horse is. Say again? No rail?
No rail listed there, so it must be.
Yeah, I think it's only on they're not only on a few of the races, but it comes out of New York, and I felt like I've landed on the New York turfers Oldie in some of these races, but I think it's mainly because of the strength of race. So I guess we'll see what's going to happen. Oh, that's good to know. But if that's the case, and I like the 8 still up front. The 4 and 8 are extremely dangerous if the rail's even out, because those horses aren't going to be able to close into this. There's too many horses. It's going to be too hard. But I just thought the 8, Oldie, I mean, in lightly raced, Oldie, I mean, is, as a 6-year-old, he only has 13 races and hit the board in all of them but one.
Yeah, and, we talked about this before we went on the air too. It's wild that it's the top pick, but to me, this is a state-bred stakes New York horse running against, a horse that is one of the top turfers I wouldn't say one of the top turfers, but in that class of top turfers in the world with Nation's Pride. And, sometimes the race sim doesn't get great data on horses from, coming from overseas and stuff like that in terms of those runs. But, I just thought much like in that Turf Mile where I can't remember the name of the other Chad Brown that won that grade 1 Turf Mile, but, that was a graded stakes horse, and this was a state-bred horse was my feeling. These are some good straight breds. It's beaten, but I just think that there are some horses here, even if it's not Nation's Pride, that are that might be a little better.
All right. So where else did you look here? We'll talk about a few more because I think in this, unless you think, well, and I'm happy to talk about the 4. I think you should talk about Battle of Normandy as well.
Yeah, I think Battle of Normandy, again, grade 3 winner, has been in there in grade 1s, but hasn't won. And maybe the yielding turf was the reason in the Saratoga Derby, but ran well off a 22-1 line there as well. Definitely outran those odds. Has been in excellent form. Has no problem with the distance for Shug. Gets Jose here, and you get a price. So, I thought Battle of Normandy was a horse that if Nation's Pride doesn't win, has a shot. I'm also going to mention Formidable Man here, Justin, who did win the Hollywood Derby, only because if everybody remembers, the second pick is the horse that blew up the board in the Derby on Derby Day. Not in the Derby, but on Derby Day in that turf race where, it wasn't a high win percentage, but was the second pick. And this horse kind of has a similar look and feel to me.
Big price, man. I mean, the top 3 picks are all prices. Win for the money, I thought, Dylan rides for Cassie and rode last out, right? Got this horse to break well in a nine horse field. And the win percent's about the same as a fine GSR. In the Fort Lauderdale, he didn't get the lead, but still raced well. But there's no speed here. And you go, who's going to get the lead? I mean, isn't the 4 going to get the lead?
My note here in the last race, though, was slow pace, had a great trip, but not good enough. And now gets a tougher group.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And like that, that's the reason I take notes like that, though, is because if you look at what the chart caller says here, it doesn't give you any of those, doesn't give you that information.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if it was the favorite there, I think they get the lead here, though. So I think it could be dangerous on the front end. I'd be curious. One other horse that I kind of looked at, Oldie, was Integration. So what were your thoughts on Integration? That's the other. You talked about the 10, but what about the 5?
This horse was in the Arlington Million against Nation's Pride, ran second, was almost a couple lengths back. We'll need to turn the tables there, but I just don't know if this horse, I know it has a couple wins at 9 furlongs, but I don't know if it really wants to go that short in this instance. The GSR is great. I just think it might be more of like a low grade 2, high grade 3 type.
I mean, when I looked, the Kentucky Downs race, obviously going 12, whether you like that race or not, but you can go back to the Arlington Million and raced versus Nation's Pride, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they faced each other in that race, and you have Pratt on, Carmushra that day. Now you have Frankie riding. And Frankie rode before, down at Keeneland. So in the Maker's Mark, but this horse doesn't show up in the picks. But I thought this horse had a big shot. I mean, it's crazy, only because the 5 and 7 both don't show up in the picks, but the picks are all prices. But I think that's why I thought this race was fairly wide open. That's awesome, Bluegrass. The one horse of the year. Yeah, I'm like, I thought Integration had a big shot too. So, I am 8-4-7-5, I believe, and you are.
I have it down there as 7-8-10, but it's 7-10-8.
You are 7-10-8,
and you can add the 2 at the end there too.
Okay. Anybody? No, I think we covered everybody. All right, we're gonna keep going. The last, and then we're gonna jump to Oaklawn. A little bit smaller fields, at least on a couple Oaklawn races. We might have a little more, I think, strong opinions too on probably a couple races. But here you have Scotty Crowd on the lead, gets the
Yep.
lead on the race sim. Florent's riding here. Which I think it probably shows strength, I would say, for him to come here versus riding anywhere else. Whether he would be at Oaklawn or you're not going to stay at Fairgrounds on a weekend like this. So, him and Jose both departed to ride here, you can see. So, Oldie, where do you think the pace was going to be tough here for Cox?
I do. I think so. So I kind of looked at this race, and I think you got to start with White Barrio here, because you have to. The first thing you got to look at in this race is, if White Barrio runs the race that White Barrio ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic, is there anybody here who can beat White Barrio? I think the answer with this group is no.
Yeah.
And then if Saudi Crown runs its best race here, it didn't win in the Saudi Cup, but just missed there. If it runs that race, I don't think there's anybody here that's because the horse that won the Saudi Cup scratched out before was it was your closer. I'm trying to
Senior Buscador.
Senior Buscador, who retired.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, it's really one of those two horses, but I think Saudi Crown has a shot on the front end. There's no National Treasure here. There's no Baffert horse to run you off to run Saudi Crown off its feet here. I really think it was between those two horses. And, I'll say this, and 2 years ago, Chris and I did a Pegasus show where the favorite was a horse in the 10 post that had no speed. This time the favorite's a horse in the 11 post that has no speed. Locked will not win this race from the 11 post.
I agree with you. I didn't like Locked at all. So I want you just to keep going. I think in this race, I think we can talk about. I thought this was a very tough Pegasus race, Oldie, because of what you said. Is there a question on White Barrio? Is there, if Saudi Crown get back to that last race? But so let's talk about the two Kentucky Derby horses in Mystic Dan and Stronghold then. So, and talk about either one in whatever order. You start with Stronghold, it looks like.
All right, so let's start with Stronghold, who wins the race. Simmons, the long shot. You should toss this horse completely. Would be my answer here. This horse won a very, very weak Grade 1 in the Santa Anita Derby, and has been beaten by lesser horses that every race since then. And let's forget the Kentucky Derby. We broadcast it, both the Indiana Derby and the Pennsylvania Derby. There's no Dragoon Guard here, but even if there was, Dragoon Guard isn't the same class as a Saudi Crown, White Barrio, even a Mixed Toe or a Newgrange, So to me, this horse has kind of been living off that Santa Anita Derby in terms of numbers. That was a 66 group. It was one of the weakest Grade 1s, one of the weakest Santa Anita Derbies in recent memory.
All right, so
and
keep going.
I want to point out one other thing, and that this goes along with what Chris put in there too, is at 9 furlongs, the start is very close to that first turn. Yes. So that's why the outside posts with horses with no speed don't do well here. And, so just keep that in mind. I think Saudi Crown has a big shot here, as I said. Um, Mystic Dan appears to not have enough speed. I think if Mystic Dan gets a hot pace like he did in the Derby, um, he could still find that perfect trip, but probably needs to find more tactical speed than he's shown in the past, would be my comment. I did not understand him sprinting first time out in that race.
Yeah.
I was very vocal about that. Um, I still don't understand it. Um, but, I hear that he's working well. Um, he's just going to have to show more speed at Gulfstream. And maybe this is just the wrong spot for him. And this is a prep um, for the Saudi Cup or for the or for Maidan.
Yeah. And the last one we can talk about is Skippy. What's the word with Skippy coming out of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile?
Well, my answer on Skippy is look at when Skippy's not when Skippy has to leave the grade 2 and grade 3 company. And granted that Woodward effort in the slop was pretty decent. But other than that, let me get this out of the way here. Other than that, the Skippy's the king of grade 2s and grade 3s. And I just think this group is probably at an 80 SOR is probably too good for Skippy. Be a great story and a great price if it wasn't. The combination of the 10 post there and the class there makes me want to toss Skippy out there.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. When only I looked at all those sources we kind of went through, that's where I narrowed to, and I think I would agree. I think Saudi Crown going to be tough up top. It would not surprise me if any of those other horses win, though, whether it was, White Barrio, Stronghold, Mystic Dan. I really don't like Locked. I'm with you there. So if I was playing a horizontal bet, I would definitely use a handful here, to be honest, because the prices will be too good on like a horse like Stronghold or Mystic Dan if I was playing, the pick 5. And I actually might. I haven't played a pick 5 at Gulfstream in a while. So I'd use a few here. I think it's a competitive group. If horses can get back to a certain race, they can win this race, right?
Yep.
I mean, but you could ask that question. But I think Saudi Crown can be tough up front. Pace make the race. Pace can be dangerous. Brad Cox have Saudi Crown ready, I would say.
And I think the other one that might have a shot is your Pacific Classic winner, Mixed Toe. Needs to improve. Let's just throw that Breeders' Cup Classic outing out. But this horse can sit close. And if it finishes like it did in the Breeders' Cup Classic, if the horse is live at a big price, but most likely not. But just from the inside post and everything like that. And I'll add a couple things here. The one's for you and one's for Chris here. So for you, instead of you could play a Gulfstream, all stakes pick 5 here, or you also have the option of playing the coast to coast.
No, I saw that. Yeah, I probably play that too. Yeah. That's a good bet, huh?
Yeah, and 2 years ago we hit that on the Pegasus show for 16K.
No.
So
yeah, well,
and we hit a one, and the single was a 3 to 5 horse. So it's with the $1 base, it's going to potentially give you a nicer payout, and it's low takeout. So that's my thing for you. For Chris, and anybody who has an NYRA bets account, is a $5,000 hit and split. You have to make a win. You have to be right in 3 win bets on the last 3 races on the Pegasus card. That's at 3 $10 win bets, so it'll cost you $30 to have a shot at a $5,000 hit and split. So those were the two my two thoughts there. As I know we need to move to Oaklawn as well.
All right, great card. We what do we got? Like 5 at Oaklawn? 6? 6.
Too many. 6, yes. But no, it's a great card. Lots of stakes. Starting with the King Cotton stakes here, Justin.
Yeah, there's you've been covering Oaklawn. I have not played there at all, oldie. Like zero, to be honest. I'm not sure if I've bet a race so far. Chris is not. Maybe you should. It looks like a good sequence, I think.
No,
So,
Chris, I was not talking to you about the coast to coast. I was talking to you about the $5,000 hidden split for $30 worth of win bets at in the last 3 races of the Pegasus card on NYRA bets. That seemed like more up your alley. All right, so Oaklawn race 5.
Gulfport, happy is the choice. Tejanos Twist. These horses are all winners, oldie.
There's something interesting here that I wanted to note as well, and that's the weight on Tejano Twist, which I don't really understand the weight break the horse is getting here, but I saw it noted, and it's worth mentioning because this horse oftentimes has trouble getting up, and maybe the weight difference is going to make the difference here.
It's all oldie. It's all in the conditions under info. So this horse, they're saying they're getting a big weight break because of its crazy conditions, right? So we don't need to go through them all, but that's why.
And this is where Pratt is today, or on Saturday as well. So Pratt will be riding Tejano Twist with 117 pounds aboard. Versus Happy as a Choice is going to be carrying 124 pounds and gets Ramon Vasquez. So I probably wouldn't be using Tejano Twist at 124 pounds with Rafael Bejarano aboard, but with the weight break here, and I think Hartman's going to send the 5 hard to try to set this up for Tejano Twist.
Yeah, that's what it looked like for me. So, what are your thoughts there? Can this horse come off the pace going 6 at Oaklawn like that?
I think it can. It hasn't gotten there recently, but again, it was carrying a lot more weight and didn't have Pratt there, and possibly Pratt will make the length to half a length difference that the horse needs to make up there. That plus the weight. I also really, I'll tell you, Gulfport's my top choice. But I will say, and I made this comment today, that how many races has Asmussen cost his ownership groups by putting his kids aboard instead of Santana or Rosario or somebody like that? And you do have.
Where's Joel riding?
I haven't seen him recently. He had ridden some at Oaklawn, but I haven't seen him recently. I really think it's those 3 horses though. Tejano Twist, Gulfport, and Happy as a Choice.
So you put Gulfport on top.
Yeah, I just thought Gulfport from a trip standpoint, I didn't think there was enough pace unless Edge to Edge just runs the top off this race to really, take Gulfport out of here. I think Gulfport's good enough. Gulfport, believe it or not, was the favorite in the Champagne 2 years ago. So that this horse has always been very well considered, was off for a long time, and has kind of been just getting back into sprinting here.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's between those three. I was really looking between the 4 and 6 oldie, and when you look at both of them, I mean, the 4, 1-2 back at Churchill, been racing at Oaklawn just last time. The 6, Happy is a choice for John Ortiz. I mean, this horse he's won 5 out of 7 races at similar company, and then has won 2 nice stakes races at 6 furlongs and win. I mean, it's just getting up. And then I look at Gulfport, I'm like, well, you're just getting up, and Town of Twist can't really win the race and going to come off the lead. So I ended up with Happy as the choice on top. I mean, wins the race him. I didn't love this race. I thought it was between the 3 of them, but I put the 6 on top.
Yeah. The other thing to note on the 6 is the 6 has 3 wins at Oaklawn.
Yeah. All right, let's see Oaklawn a lot faster than those big Gulfstream races, Oldie.
Yeah, and I don't think this race is all that deep either, the next one.
All right, the General MacArthur overnight stakes. What you have a big favorite in Kinetic, Oldie, is my expectation, and then you have the 3 up there on the race sim, it looks like. So
Yep. And again, this is a completely paceless race. Top pace number is 48.
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And there are some horses that just have no speed at all in this race. It's Kinetic for Brad Cox. It's Sir Grayland for Kenny McPeak here. I really think the race sim has it right. The picks have it right. It's those 2 horses. You look at some of these others, this horse pretty much, the 2 horse comes from the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 horse comes from the clouds. The other one to mention that's been around a long time is Creative Minister, the long shot to me, but again, is going to need pace to run into. So
I have a note on Creative Minister, Oldie, from April of 2022 at Keeneland. Oh, that's funny.
Like I
It's
said,
just,
been around a long time.
and I mean, it's funny. I look at that, and the horse won next out, and my note was so main special weight, nothing really. And the horse won next out, but then never won another race.
Yes. And has been the
Oh
favorite
man.
several times as well
Yeah.
in that time. But what you can say, it's like, I'm going to use the analogy of CC Sabathia.
Mm-hmm.
Every 5 days, CC Sabathia was on the mound taking the ball. And Creative Minister, every few weeks, ready to roll. You look at the number of races this horse has run since 2022. A lot more than you typically see for horses at these levels. So, this may be without the winning, the CC Sabathia of horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I ended up landing on Kinetic, Oldie. Just, Brad Cox, inside post. I thought probably dangerous here. Didn't win last out in that 2-turn race, 8.5 at Fairgrounds. I can't remember where I landed that day, but I remember talking about Kinetic. But this race is easier, comes over to Oaklawn now. I mean, it makes sense in a stakes company here. I think to your point, there's not necessarily a lot of speed. Flavian rides, first time aboard. I thought would be tough.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I think might happen is if Sir Grayland has more speed than we think here in Julian Sens, which
Yeah.
seems like an oxymoron as I say it out loud. I think Sir Grayland could maybe steal this race, but I was with you with Kinetic as my top pick here.
All right.
Rock Chalk, Scott.
Yeah. let's. I don't necessarily really see anybody else. Oldie, anybody else you want to talk about?
No. I want to move on from that race as quickly as possible.
All right, let's keep going. We're gonna go to race number 7, right?
Yeah, and the 5th season stakes again. One of these speed horses, if the 1 or 4 scratches out, that might change my opinion here.
All right,
Especially the 4, who I
let's
actually
watch
like.
the race sim. So the 4 and the 1 are the speed.
Yeah, and the 1's cheap.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Machine Gun Man, what a name, man. The wine steward showing up here.
Off a big layoff too.
Mm-hmm. There's a long shot gonna win the race, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So for me, I dropped the wine steward. I did not have the 5 in my top picks. I thought the 8 liberal arts for Brad Cox, and I thought maybe a Brad Cox double here. Our double players away from his desk right now, but the Brad Cox double I thought had a big look here. Going a mile, 2 turns. This horse beat 68 SORs by almost 12 lengths last time out. It was only a 6-horse field. This isn't as, it might be a little bit deeper of a field, but this horse was running on the Derby Trail, and then moved to the Cox Barn and really took off. So I think that this horse, with the 1 in this race as kind of cheap speed to set it up, is going to get the trip and finish here.
Man, I mean, I'm looking at the 9, Oldie.
Yeah.
And Brunachini may be how you pronounce it, but the race sim think this horse gonna stock off the pace. I mean, did do that 2 back, didn't in its maiden win, and then has 2 losses where it didn't necessarily run great, right? So, I mean, gonna be in that outside post. I mean, that's probably okay, I would say. From, has some amount of tactical speed, I think, and can probably sit right off. That's probably where I would land, actually. I mean, just looking at a few of these, like I could see, and the other, I would definitely want to talk about the 7 Henro, but I think I would land on the 9 there. I think can sit off. I mean, lightly race versus this group, I think can still win a stakes race. I think really fits here.
Yeah, I had some interest in this horse as well. This was my second pick. My question is 2 turns for this horse. I know the GSR seems fine at 8 furlongs, but the 2 subpar efforts were longer than 7 furlongs. Maybe this horse is a 7 furlong specialist, but definitely had interest as my second pick here, and with an E morning line angle and all that kind of stuff here.
I mean, I think it's a 4-year-old facing older predominantly for the first time. I think that would be my one kind of concern here, but I thought I had a big shot. What? So you're on liberal arts. I see we talked about the 9, and then I'd be curious to talk about the 4 and then Henro the 7. So you decide who's first.
Yeah. So, the 4 Patriot Spirit, has some nice wins. It did win the Illinois Derby on the lead, then came out and won on the dirt at Colonial sprinting. So that this horse does have some proven form over 2 turns. Gets back to the dirt too, and didn't seem to like that synthetic effort, but I would upgrade this horse if the one scratches Machine Gun Man here. Otherwise, it's a kind of a use underneath. The one's cheap, um, and is going to stop most likely if the horse gets in the race. If it breaks slow or anything like that, Patriot Spirit could get an easy lead there. Um, Scott, I'll just say, let me just comment on Scott's question there. Um, I'm always down for some beer battered onion rings at Free State Brewing, would be my answer there. And, so you want to talk about the 7 Henry?
Yeah, what about Henro for Hartman, Oldie? I mean, has a few stakes wins at Prairie Meadows, Churchill, one at 7, now stretching out. I mean, one at Prairie Meadows going 8.5.
Yeah.
The GSR doesn't really say it will be a concern, even though it looks like the source really loves 7 furlongs. But also the GSR says going long shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, and this might be a horse, if the 1 doesn't scratch out, to use instead of the 4. But that there's one good 2-turn effort, there's one bad 2-turn effort here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think the West Virginia Derby was a little bit better than this group. I think that maybe 9 furlongs, even though the GSR was okay there, might have been a little too long for this
close
horse.
to the pace, maybe. Right? I mean, was right up on the lead in that effort. And I know it did win going 2 turns like that, but I don't Yeah, I would definitely have to use this horse. I think I would go here. I'm 9, 7, 8 would be how I would be, Oldie, in this race.
9, 7, 8. Okay. And I am 8, 9, 4. It looks like we're both off the Wine Stewart, who has not raced since the Belmont. And
yeah, JJ riding. I mean, but
carrying 115 pounds.
I mean, this would be my 4th pick, I guess. I would say. I mean, I could see this horse if I was probably playing a horizontal. I definitely would use Oldie. I wouldn't be able to just chuck this horse. It's too much of a question mark for me. I think some of these others are fit. They're in form. I mean, maybe Maker has this horse fit, ready to go. I mean, from a works perspective, this horse been over at Gulfstream, so then they ship in.
Yeah, and I just don't know on this horse in terms of, it seemed to have done its best running as a 2-year-old. Not that it was terrible in the Peter Pan or the Lexington, but those are lesser, Derby preps too. But as a 2-year-old, this, and we see this often, where horses that do their best running as 2-year-olds don't come back and run so good as 3 and 4-year-olds. So that would be that's kind of my thought there. And somewhere you got to not take a price or take the favorite, and this seemed like a spot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So, all right, sort of player, but nothing crazy. Let's go to. We're going to race number 8. What's the Bugler Stakes?
The Bugler Overnight Stakes. And this was the race where I did do something crazy. My top pick is something crazy here. And we'll just watch for a minute.
Something crazy. I love it. All right. They're going 6th. Man, this field is gigantic, Oldie.
Yeah, I can't even here. Now I can get it on the screen. But the 13 and 14 are AEs.
Okay.
So let's take those out of there. I am going to, and my top pick here was Moonlit Lady, the 3, with the 30-1 morning line and the 20-point pace advantage for Gutierrez. This horse has a win over 72s on the turf. GSR stays about the same. 100%, 1,000% needs to lead here, but at a 30 to 1 price, it's a risk that might be worth taking here. You know, the horse did break its maiden on the dirt as well. I just think that at 6 furlongs, inside speed is so dangerous. And, you know, if it gets away and this Cox horse breaks slow like it's been doing, the pace advantage might actually be larger than we think, too.
So, man, the 8 wins the race in with the 6 coming off the pace.
Yeah.
Royal Spa and Tanya Showers.
Tanya Showers, yes, which I hope for her sake she does, but
right. I mean, are either one of these AEs gonna get in the race?
I've not heard anything yet on scratches, so let's look here. At least we can see their pace numbers and things like that right now. But you know, I think the 13 is more dangerous than the 14 here, in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree. Man, so the 3 going to be out there loose: Silver Rose, Pratt, Cox, riding,
Yeah.
and then so Royal Spa Oldie is coming from much tougher and been racing really well at Keeneland Churchill and then raced well at Oaklawn, coming off the pace. I mean, with all of that speed.
But when you actually have been racing well but not winning, you look at the allowance, you know, that it's been winning conditioned allowance races.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, man, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, from a strength of race, the 8 and 6 kind of tower over this group a little bit, Oldie. I mean, the 9 is up there too. I guess more the 8, but I mean,
Well,
I'm using just race view looking at that. I mean, but the 9, oh,
the 3 not at the distance, but the 3 overall is right there. You know, because those have been on turf and not on dirt. But you know, this was a tough race. Beyond that, I thought it was the 3, 9, and 6 were the places I wanted to be here. But again, the 6, it's the same thing, but mostly been in tougher races, but mostly beaten allowance company as well. And these are just horses that don't win all that often.
yeah, no, I can see your angle. I'm gonna land on Tanya Showers though, Oldie. I mean, Majorano, Hartman, you know, it hit the board in 10 of 13. You know, I mean, from a connection standpoint, I mean, Hartman, I'm assuming, does well down at Oaklawn. I don't see him at all at Fairgrounds, so I'm assuming that he just focuses on. Actually, that's not true. He is at Fairgrounds, but he doesn't necessarily have a lot of runners and has been fairly cold. So I think that he probably predominantly is focused on Oaklawn. I mean, she looks nice, Oldie. I mean, has one off the lead in a 68 and a 72. You know, once was in the mud at Churchill, once was at Oaklawn. And then you look at the other 6 furlong efforts at Churchill, and those are respectable. You know, I mean, this is a tough race though, but that's where I'd land. Would be on the 6.
Yeah, and I just think that, you know, again, you could go, if you go with the 3 here, you could have a straight Brad Cox pick 3 as well, potentially.
let's talk about the 13 real quick. So, I mean, is this just to go? I mean, this if the 13 draws in, I don't necessarily Matt Williams. I've heard that name a little bit, but I mean, this horse looks like. I mean, it has 7 wins in 17 tries.
Yep.
Is it a player here? Do you think, Oldie?
I mean, it's a little class compromised, but the horse is tactical, loves Oaklawn. You know, already has 2 wins here this year. Definitely will be a step up in class. But, you know, you go back and look, and, you know, maybe this horse is just on the improve and it's this horse's time. But I do think the 13 post might be tough here. And it may just be a cut below as much as I want to like this horse here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably agree. Scott mentioned the 9 is easy to like, and I mean I can see it too.
Yeah.
But gonna be up there with the speed with your 3 horse probably, right, Oldie, to some extent. But
But
this is a
also
tough
has had a
race.
habit of breaking slow. And if it does that again, it could take itself out of contention.
Yeah.
And, you know, we saw that today at Oaklawn in the first race. It was actually in my analysis that the one horse who was the big favorite in the first race at 3-5 breaks slow, and there was other speed there, and the horse needed the lead. So, and that's exactly what happened. It blew the break and didn't end up winning the race or finishing. I don't think it finished in the money even. Actually, it didn't. I hit the try because I threw it out. So, you know, so it's the same situation here. If this horse breaks well, it's got a good chance to win. But if it breaks like it has in 3 of the last 4, it's probably going to be in a position where it has to rate more than it's rated in the past successfully.
Yeah. All right. How many? We got 2 more.
Yep.
All
We
right.
have the
I'm on
Martha
this.
and then the Southwest.
I'm on the 6 there. You're on the 3 for price. I would love to see that. That would be amazing. We'll have to see. Yeah, that Anthony, that's a tough race. So,
Yeah.
Oldie, I looked at this race, and Quiet Side is an insane 66% to win. And Ortiz and Ricardo rides. I mean, that was pretty wild to see such a huge win percent in the morning line at even money.
Yeah, and I'll also say that, you know, Quiet Side has kind of been Immersive's whipping girl, so to speak, in those previous 2 races.
Yeah,
And then the other one of Cox's other horses just ran Quiet Side off its feet on the 30th of November as well. But I just don't think Quiet Side's that good. I mean, first of all, I think the pace number's wrong here. Quiet Side's never been that close to the pace. You know, typically, you know, is going to be, you know, a few lengths back. You know, I just thought there were some other options here. I didn't think there was enough here for it to close into, but my top pick is the second McPeak here in Gall's Delight, who was winner first time out by 5.5, showed tactical speed. 8-1 on the morning line, 9-2 on the morning line. This horse might be a horse I play as a single if I'm gonna play the late pick 5 or the all stakes pick 5 here.
So that horse scratched out of Fairgrounds, Oldie.
To come here.
Yeah, it was over was over at Fairgrounds race 9. I remember this horse because it was the long shot, is why I remember. And So was in the Fasig tipped in Silver Bullet Day, which simply joking won and won impressively, I would
Yeah.
say. And Shaston did not look well at all. But so I have interest in that. So if we go back, I gotta jump back. Sorry, I got off my Oaklawn screen. Come all the way back. We are in race 9. So you have a morning line angle. It doesn't show up in the long shot here. The 6 does, but I think can be just as much of a long shot. I mean, the two win the race sim so easily because of all the class. But man,
And I think the 4 is dangerous as well here. I just don't see why Quiet Side needs to be 66% here and needs to win.
I'm gonna land on her laugh, the 4 Oldie, just from the standpoint of went over to Fairgrounds, won that race, Whitworth Beckman. I mean, I think this horse is probably well meant. Just looking at connections. It's a homebred Oldie, and coming out, and that's, I think we talk a little bit about that. I mean, this horse is very well bred, and he got a good one. Yeah, so that's the dam. I mean,
Yeah.
was nothing special. I mean, I have a practical joke, but I mean, that horse is bred all day to go 2 churns. So because I'm kind of with you on the against the Quiet Side angle here. I think the horse can win. Don't get me wrong. But I think just because it's hogging all the win percent and the SOR, I still have a little bit of a question mark. I mean, her laugh won easy in the stakes race, and it's never easy, Oldie, to come off a maiden special and win. So yeah, I think I'd land on the 4. I'm with you trying to beat Quiet Side. But I do think the 5 is a really good long shot angle, Oldie. I appreciate you mentioning that. Scratch out of Fairgrounds, they think that was a tough race. And so, maybe finds a little, not necessarily easier here, but maybe it was a better spot.
Yeah. Well, and McPeak had another horse they liked, though, in that Fairgrounds race, if I remember correctly, that didn't win, but was backed very heavily. I actually liked this horse better than that horse that day, and was disappointed that it scratched out.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
But I just the 2 horse broke its maiden and hasn't done anything. The 3 horse took 3 shots and had to do it in the slop. So to me, it was the 4 and the 5, and then the 1 underneath for me.
Yeah, I'd be 4-1-5 or 4-5-1. I'm gonna go with the 4.
Scott says the 3's a closer. And the watcher.
I just think in a race like, and that's it. I mean, it's Kenny McPeak. You can, I wouldn't put it past here. It's really gonna have to close, and versus this group, I think is a little bit classy. And it would be just my perspective. Would be a little bit of my worry, just breaking its maiden. But anything can happen. All right, race 10. The Southwest, Oldie. We have horses like Gaming for Mr. Bob Baffert's on the inside, One Post, Sandman. But let's watch the race sim. I always like watching the race sim on these prep races. And Oldie, you have Patch Adams with Flavian Pratt and Brad Cox, who didn't show up in the picks, Oldie, but is the top win percent. So I'd be curious if Any thoughts you had here with the metrics on this race too? When I saw it, I mean, I thought that with Patch Adams not showing up in the picks was just strange. But I think it's mainly because of the race sim, Oldie, when I looked here. And it's because Speaking win the darn race sim as the Scotty long shot.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with Brad about Speed King too. And there is a big E morning line angle, but the word I'm hearing on Patch is that Patch is working very well and could potentially be the top Brad Cox Derby horse here. Won pretty easily at Churchill going against a 56, so a pretty good maiden group by almost 11 lengths. And I did have noted there that he almost broke the track record as well. There, I do, in interest of honesty, I do have Derby futures on both Patch and Gaming here. I think they both have big looks. I think the pace number, this is another one where I question the pace number because I don't think Gaming wants to be on the lead, and I don't think Patch wants to be on the lead either. Patch was first time out and tired. I think Patch wants to stalk a little bit, but to me the 1, the 7, and the 10 were the thoughts here as the not in that order. 7, 1, 10 was my order. Did you have a thought here before I go in on Speed King and why Speed King's my third choice here?
No, keep going, Oldie. You're good.
All right, so Speed King has some massive works, massive
I saw that.
massive works.
I saw that. Yeah.
But lost to our friend Cole Battle in the Springboard Mile.
Yeah.
And I have questions as to the distance on Speed King. I think Speed King might be a sprinter. Ideally, I mean, tired at 8 furlongs while clear going a mile at Remington. Stretches out a little further here. GSR goes down a little bit. If this was 7 furlongs, Speed King probably would be my top choice here. Or even maybe a 1-turn mile. But, it does have that one of 302. I did look for this work. It's not yet posted on the Oaklawn work site. But if it is, I'll put it in the chats and things like that for people to watch. Because one of 302, that should be an impressive workout.
Are the other works in there? Just the most recent one isn't?
No, there's, believe it or not, no Speed King works in there.
How is that even possible?
I don't know.
Well,
at least as of this morning, there were none in there.
They must just. That's very strange. I don't know.
And I know they were filming on.
If they're going to post the works, like how would they not catch this horse working at? It's been there since Thanksgiving.
Maybe since it's in the Southwest field, that they may not have posted the works for Saturday yet. Because they actually, the way it's posted, lists the race that the horse is going to run in. It's not just posted there with the date of the work. So I would not be surprised to see it show up. What would be my thought there? But, I would like to see that work and see what kind of prodding and urging was required to be one of 302 or 4 of 120.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What was your thoughts on Tistastic, the 4?
Well, I thought, that this horse has done its best running on the turf. The GSR is great. It's a tis the law. Um, but the turf efforts just seem better, and it seems to be gradually as it's been climbing up the class ladder in terms of SOR. Also, you see it's not running as well. So it's either one of those two things, but it is 0 for 3 on the dirt, would be my statement there. And its 2 wins came at Kentucky Downs as well. So, for me, that this horse was nice to note, but I kind of see the system at 5%, and I think 10-1 may still be too rich for my blood on this horse.
Yeah, I narrowed quite a bit here, Oldie, I think with you. And we didn't talk at all about Sandman, really?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think this horse is the biggest question mark to me in this field, to be honest, because only when I look here, it won at Saratoga and won easy, and so from that perspective, and you look at the connections here, this horse has been pointed to hoping to have a good one, and so they won easy at Toga, second time out, and they were nearly the favorite, and then running the Iroquois, running the Street Sense, both times at Churchill, was okay, I guess. Didn't break well, was a step slow, and was bumped in the next race. So I would say this horse to me only has the opportunity maybe to improve, because you saw a much different effort in the last race.
Yeah.
But I would be between the 1, 7, 10, 6 here. I think I would probably land with you and put Patch on top, to be honest. I think I would. But the others, I have to do a little more research before Saturday, I would say, to try to understand, like to your point, what's going on with those works with Speed King, and,
Yeah.
With that amount of speed, and, Cold Battle, I think, is a really nice horse, and, but yeah, I'd be with Patch with you.
Yeah. And, my comment on Sandman would be to quote Metallica and say that that you will not see it enter light and exit night, and you will not be off to see Never Never Land with this horse.
I don't know. I think Sandman got a shot, man. I think Scott C. Sandman does. I have the question marks out on gaming, so that's why I would be trying to beat the one with. But again, I think Pat's probably going to be tough here. I think a nice horse, Pratt rides, is here to ride. Florent Giroux not riding here, Oldie, and is riding over at Gulfstream, right, and riding on Saudi Crown.
But Patch is getting Pratt, so
no, that's my point though. But I mean, and so I don't as much worry about that. I mean, Flavian might be taking the mounts over, to be honest. So, it's always tough to break the maiden and come in here, but for 3-year-olds, they have a goal. And I mean, I think there's some question marks on some of these. It's a good race, but I do think in a situation like that you could have a horse break its main and come back here and get, how many Derby points do they get here? 20 on top? I think it might be 20.
It's 30. I think it's 30.
Okay.
I think it's 30, 10, 5, 10 for second and 5 for third in this round. But, I do think that so my view of gaming is gaming wants them to go a little faster than you think typically with a Baffert horse. In order for gaming's more of a grinder than a horse with a big kick. But maybe it gets that pace here if Speed King and Patch Adams hook up. But I just think that they're going to be similarly priced. And Pratt does not have a Derby ride yet either, I don't believe, because last I heard, Chancer McPatrick, who I believe Pratt was the regular rider for, Brown said is going to struggle to get back in time for the Derby.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could be that this is what Flavian's hoping for. It might be taking over here. So, I like Sandman though too. I'd be 7-6-10-1. I think gaming. I'm with you. I don't necessarily not super impressed, but it's Baffert. The horse can be live. JJ here to ride. So, but I don't know. I don't really like the price. Obviously versus this group, I like others. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the morning line to morning line on Speed King is just bonkers.
yeah. No, that's a good one. I mean, and especially as a long shot. I mean, that's great. That'll be good value. You're probably going to get much higher than 9-2, Oldie, I would guess. I don't know if you'll get
Unless those works get posted and they're just
much the best.
yeah, otherworldly would be the term I was going to use. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, and I think that this is a pretty good Derby prop for this round too. So we still have the Holy Bull to come up here as well, and a couple others. But is so far, I think this is the best of the Derby props that have taken place so far.
All right, is that the last one?
That is.
We got through it. That was it's a big weekend, Oldie.
Yeah.
You have we have NHC show tomorrow with Scotty and 2022 champ David Harrison. They 11:30 Eastern, I believe, Oldie. Lots of people still trying to qualify for NHC. You're gonna get there. I know you will. You have lots of chances. Mr. Brad Anderson, I know, is trying still. But then you have stretch run on Saturday. You're gonna have Pegasus. You'll obviously be covering Oaklawn, talking Oaklawn. I'm sure some others. I will not be with you as I have baseball tryouts and basketball to coach. Paxton back in basketball, so that's good news.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great news. And we will also, I know Jake is going to join us for a little while as well and make his debut.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Like he's doing a great job, in Kentucky, Oldie, at Turfway. Just you and him both have two tough tracks. Chris, if you want to jump in, we're just closing it out. But all right, Oldie. It was a pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here. Good luck on Saturday, Oaklawn, Gulfstream. Both great cards, Oldie. Get a big tournament, Pegasus. Yep. I think Scotty playing in that. If anybody else is playing, good luck. It'll be awesome. Scott. But any last words, Oldie?
No, I just thank you everybody for tuning in, Scott. Maybe more Johnny's West than the TP, but they're just talking about Lawrence, Kansas sites here. But thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you find some doubles, some pick threes, some pick fours, and pick fives that make you money this weekend.
All right. Good luck. We'll see y'all soon. I got Fairgrounds. Only got Oaklawn. Good luck this weekend. Good luck tomorrow. We'll see y'all soon.